Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. A federal judge is going to allow President Trump to implement his fork-in-the-road deadline for federal workers, meaning that the president can move forward with downsizing the federal payroll. In his latest example of government waste, Elon Musk describes a limestone mine used for processing federal workers' retirement papers like a time warp, he said. There's been a lot of talk about sanctuary cities for illegal migrants. Now a city council has voted to be a sanctuary city for transgenders. We have all the details of this story out of Massachusetts. The White House is opening to the public again. First Lady Melania Trump made the announcement yesterday. I have the details on how you can get a tour of the White House. And a food pantry was offered some much-needed fresh salmon in upstate New York from a salmon farm going out of business. The problem? They have to get the fish out by Friday, and they're still swimming live in the farm's pond.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
A big win for Trump 2.0 yesterday. A federal judge is allowing the Trump administration to move forward with its plan to downsize the federal workforce by offering employees the option to resign now but be paid through September. U.S. District Judge George O'Toole, he's an appointee of Bill Clinton, did not address whether the deferred resignation program is actually legal. Instead, the judge ruled that several unions that sued over the program lack legal standing to pursue the issue in court. I expect there'll be another group who will step up and challenge the program. The program, termed the Fork in the Road and promoted by Trump advisor Elon Musk, originally had a deadline of February the 6th for workers to accept the offer. Last week, O'Toole temporarily blocked the administration from enforcing that deadline while he considered the legal arguments in the case. But on Wednesday, the Boston-based judge denied the union's request for a court order that would have required the government to continue to hold open the deadline while courts weigh the program's legality. The unions argued that the offer sent to more than 2 million federal employees lacked clear legal authorization and was deceptive, they said, because Congress has only funded the government through mid-March, so the administration cannot guarantee that workers who resign now will continue to be paid through September. That argument, when I first heard it, no one in the federal government is guaranteed anything from budget year to budget year. So for them to be objecting to this program simply because Congress hasn't funded it, well, Congress hasn't funded a lot of things. Unfortunately, that's how our government works. And boy, there are a lot of programs that continue year after year trusting that Congress is going to fund them. This is just one step in downsizing the federal government. And boy, this is a big win for Trump. Of course, as the president argued this week, it was just crazy to begin with that a federal judge could stop the Trump administration from eliminating jobs in their administration. I heard, I think it was Victor David Hanson, who had probably the best explanation I've heard yet. Basically, Congress approves the funding for a program, and it's up to the executive branch, the president and his cabinet within their agencies to implement the program. So let's say Congress, and this I'm simplifying it, let's say Congress authorizes $1 billion for XYZ agency. They don't tell XYZ agency how many employees to have to administer the programs, that $1 billion funding. It's up to that agency under the direction of the cabinet secretary, who is appointed by the president, to decide how many employees it's going to take to make sure those agencies are successful. And that's what we're looking at here. So for these judges and for these unions to say, well, Trump doesn't have the authority to cut back on the number of federal employees, well, yes, he does. That's exactly the authority he has. Meanwhile, speaking of the continued work of Elon Musk and Doge, have you heard about the announcement that Musk made this week that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, was looking into a limestone mine in Pennsylvania, where the cost-cutting organization says federal employee retirements are processed manually using a system that can take months to process. We knew that things were outdated, but who would have ever thought that a group of federal employees work out of a mine with a paper system? Musk told reporters about the mine on Tuesday when he was in the Oval Office with the president as the president was signing executive orders. Musk said, and then we're told that this is actually, I think, a great anecdote because we're told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000, which could be a problem. As all these federal employees are going to be leaving the workforce, it may take them a while to process their exit. Musk went on to say, we're like, well, what is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated and written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down to the mine and like, what do you mean a mine, he says. And he's just laughing the whole time. Doze wrote on X that an old limestone mine in Boyers, Pennsylvania, it's about 60 miles north of Pittsburgh, is where about 700 workers operate more than 230 feet underground to process about 10,000 federal retirement applications every month. The applications are processed by hand, on paper, and they're stored in manila envelopes and a cardboard box. Can you imagine that? Look, if I'm a federal retiree, I'm a little bit concerned about my retirement right now, knowing that it's in a cardboard box in some limestone mine in Pennsylvania. The Washington Post described the facility as a sinkhole of bureaucracy in 2014 when they wrote an article. So this is not the first time we've heard about this. At the time, the report said that the total spending on the retirement system was $55.8 million. Multiple attempts to digitize the system have been made since 1987, according to Musk. The report says that each attempt largely failed and was eventually scrapped, and reported costs totaled over $130 million, and they still didn't get it done. So they spent $130 million trying to update their system, to digitize their system, and they still didn't get it done. How can you not digitize a retirement program? Musk said that the facility was started in 1955, and he said it looks like a time warp. He noted the slow processing speed, which Doe says can take multiple months. He said, and then the speed. The limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move. Determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down, and sometimes nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? Yes, it does sound crazy. Musk said that the flawed system of carrying manila envelopes to boxes in a mine shaft could be remedied with practically anything else, he said. Look, you could hire a bunch of high school kids to go in there and code some type of system that would take care of this. Wow. Put the folders in a manila envelope that's put in a box. In recent weeks, Democrats, of course, have been very critical of the work of Elon Musk because they're stuck on this whole idea that he's not an official of the administration. Boy, Caroline Leavitt did a great job of defending Elon Musk at the White House press conference.
We're just wondering if there's some proof, evidence. Is the White House willing to share evidence of those fraud claims, or can Elon Musk come to the briefing room and share material evidence of what he's talking about?
Sure. I would love for Elon Musk to come to the briefing room. That's why we had him go to the Oval Office yesterday, where I think he provided great answers. He was speaking in layman's terms, speaking common sense to all of you in the media, but also to Americans at home. But I would say especially to all of you in the media, because I think it's a real fallacy that there's this alleged lack of transparency when it comes to Doge. President Trump and Elon Musk have been incredibly transparent on what Doge is doing. There is an X account with the Doge handle. They are tweeting out what they are doing on a daily basis. They have a website where they are posting the receipts of the contracts that they are reviewing and the payments that they have stopped from going out the door. The secretaries of our departments have stopped from going out the door. And I would also say that before it was Elon Musk making our government efficient and accountable, it was some unnamed bureaucrat that none of you knew. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He's also now one of the most highly scrutinized men in the world alongside President Trump because of what he's doing and the access that he is allowing. So there's great transparency. As for the actual receipts, we are happy to provide them, and I actually brought some today because all of you know I love to bring the receipts. We have contracts upon contracts that we can send and provide this information to you. Let me be very clear. We are not trying to hide anything. We have been incredibly transparent, and we will continue to be. These are screenshots of contracts that DOJ found across our government. This is a DEI contract, $36,000 for U.S. citizenship and immigration services. That is against the president's policies and his America First agenda. This is a $3.4 million contract, a Council for Inclusive Innovation at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Department of Commerce, another DEI contract that DOJ identified. I can continue to go through these. Oh, I love this one, $57,000 for climate change in Sri Lanka. What is this doing to continue the interests of the American people? Absolutely nothing.
And during the president's news conference from the Oval Office earlier this week, Musk pushed back himself, saying the people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Okay, is our world just really going nuts? Am I the only one thinking this? Of course, I know some of you do too. But I'm just amazed that this wonderful country that we live in has so many nutcases. And Worcester, Massachusetts appears to be the epicenter of nutcases. The Worcester City Council in Massachusetts voted in favor of a resolution to become a sanctuary city for those transgender and gender diverse people in the city. This happened this week during a very lengthy city council meeting. There were about 200 people from the LGBTT whatever community. They arrived to show their support for this resolution, often expressing concerns for their safety under the new Trump administration. One speaker had on a purple wig, a pearl necklace, and white gloves, and said that she needs the city to protect her because the federal government will not, and that she's afraid of Trump.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space. I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag.
As you heard, the speaker, who also claimed to have multiple disabilities, addressed fears that the city would become a target of the Trump administration and lose federal funding if the measure was passed, then issued her warning to the members of council. Now, it's one thing to hear this lady, and I got another one I want you to hear too, but I watched the video of this, and I'm telling you, the way these people were dressed, they look like characters out of a bad cartoon. One of the best was the person, and I couldn't tell if this was a man or a woman, and I watched the video a couple of times to try to figure it out. When asked by one of the city council members if they could wrap it up, the speaker fired back. Here's the exchange.
I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
I'm sorry, am I taking too long pleading for my life? Can you look at me and tell me how many of my friends need to die before you do anything?
Please wrap up.
Look at me!
Okay, we're all done here.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
And you know the sad thing about these people is they're dead serious. I mean, they really believe that Trump is going to do something to them. The individual addressing those seated at the city council also asked how many of my friends need to die before something's done. Another demanded to know how many lives have to be lost before you consider fighting back against fascism and corruption. I mean, where are all these people dying that they're talking about? It just makes no sense. A purple-haired woman spoke about having 2 trans children, while another woman at the council meeting asked city leaders to imagine being in a same-sex marriage as she is and fearing that their marital rights could be stripped away at any moment. I mean, these people are Looney Tunes to think that Donald Trump and the federal government is going to come and harm them in some way. Look, if they're going to be harmed, it's going to be because of things they do to themselves. Another meeting attendee said, "You have an incredible opportunity as a community to support our children. You have an opportunity to decrease the rates of depression and suicide by showing our children that their safety and dignity are a priority." Do they think that their children are suffering from depression and anxiety and that this would be alleviated just by declaring Worcester, Massachusetts as a sanctuary city for transgenders? Maybe you should get them help for their real problem there. They're confused about their gender, their sexuality. That's why they're depressed. That's why they're anxious. Take them to a counselor, preferably a Christian counselor, and try to get them back on track. And your city council declaring that you are a sanctuary city for transgender is not going to help them sleep better at night. It's not going to help them with their depression, not going to help them from paralyzing anxiety. Changing their life is the only thing that's going to do that. Now, here's the crazy thing. The resolution to protect transgender and gender diverse people came a month after Worcester City Council at large, Councilor Ty Negwin, the first openly non-binary member of the council, took a hiatus claiming that the environment was transphobic. So this council person, woman, decided that she couldn't serve on the council anymore because they were transphobic. Yet this same council voted this week on a resolution to make the city a sanctuary city for transgenders. Now, I don't know if Worcester, Massachusetts is the first to be a transgender sanctuary city. I don't know. A local organization called Queer Residents of Worcester and Our Allies later filed a petition asking councilors to protect the minority community after this city council person left. The city council approved the resolution in a 9-2 vote following a 5-hour meeting. The council said the measure reiterated the city's commitment to transgender rights and equal protections. It also recognizes the importance of gender-affirming health care. Look, I'm sorry that some of those people felt scared or feel scared. I don't know why they feel like they have anything to be scared about, because Donald Trump is not going to fly Air Force One into Worcester, Massachusetts and try to change their life. He doesn't care how they live their life in Worcester, Massachusetts. He just doesn't want that kind of crap forced on the other residents of Worcester, Massachusetts. Now, Worcester is a very liberal, progressive city. I've been there before, and I don't recommend going. If you don't need to go to Worcester, don't go. But still, there are people in Worcester who are just average, hardworking Americans. It is a blue-collar city. And I don't believe that the majority of people in Worcester, Massachusetts, wants to be considered a sanctuary city for transgender. I could be wrong. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. The U.S. House of Representatives DOJ subcommittee had their first meeting yesterday, and they've already had some sparks fly. Democrats have already pledged to fight the GOP's efforts to weed out waste and distract from the work of the House DOJ subcommittee. Now, why would a Democrat, why would anybody for that matter, want to fight an effort to weed out waste and corruption and abuse in our federal government? It's their money, too. And boy, some of the examples that we're hearing make the last few weeks of revelations of the DOJ committee and the USAID, and we have more news on that too, but some of the waste that they've uncovered in the USAID. In yesterday's DOJ subcommittee hearing, Stuart Whitson with the Foundation for Government Accountability just asked the U.S. House to support President Trump's efforts to decrease the size of the federal government payroll. Mr. Whitson suggests that Congress make all federal employees at-will employees, which would allow them to be fired for not doing their job at any time and not be protected by some federal employee union. These are the types of common sense approaches we need to be taking. There's no reason that a federal employee, an office worker, should have the protection of a union or have the protection of some type of contract. They should all be at will. If they're not doing their job, if they don't show up for work, which is the case for many of them right now. President Trump has ordered all federal employees back to their office, and many of them are defying that because they believe that they can be protected. Also speaking to the committee yesterday was Dawn Royal with the United Council on Welfare Fraud, who gave an example of a fraud case that she has investigated. Just listen to this.
If we do not pursue the prevention, detection, and prosecution of fraud, taxpayers become the victims as the welfare programs become slush funds for anyone wanting to supplement their income with SNAP benefits, absolve themselves from the financial responsibility of medical bills, and using Medicaid to further taxpayer exploitation by taking advantage of cash assistance, energy assistance, child care, and other social welfare programs. One example of a welfare fraud is a case that I investigated that was criminally prosecuted last year. The applicant mother failed to disclose her children's father as well as his employment and income on multiple applications she submitted for Medicaid, SNAP, and low-income energy assistance. The co-defendant father worked a steady job, earning a six-figure salary, and provided an enviable lifestyle for his family, including vacations, luxury vehicles, snowmobiles, motorhomes, lavish gifts, including one from the wife to the husband, which was a $1,200 bottle of bourbon. Evidence we presented at trial included a candidate registration forms filed by the defendant father when he ran for town council and later mayor of the town where he declared he lived at the same address provided by his wife on her public assistance programs. This was a case of greed, but it emphasizes how easy it was for these criminals to make false statements on applications in order to receive benefits from multiple programs that they were never eligible for. I could spend the rest of my day providing countless examples of how taxpayer-funded programs are exploited, and the message would be the same. Investigators continue to be hamstrung by antiquated regulations, conflicting directives from federal agencies, and the lack of access to technology. Sadly, investigators have also found themselves at odds with the career bureaucrats who recite watered-down facts about fraud in order to promote their political agendas.
And I get back to my question earlier. Why would a bureaucrat, why would anybody in the federal government want to protect somebody like this city councilman mayor? She didn't say whether he won his race for mayor. Wonder if he did. Wonder if that city or town where he lived actually elected this guy to be their mayor. Did this guy become the mayor of a city while receiving public welfare? Also in yesterday's DOJ subcommittee hearing, 4th District Representative William Timmons asked about a program that he says can save billions of dollars in Medicaid payments.
Now to the task at hand, Medicaid fraud. Mr. Talkov, if we implement enhanced identity verification and enhanced income verification, what will happen? How much money will we save?
You'll save hundreds of billions of dollars. Identity verification, elimination of self-certification, and monitoring beneficiaries will prevent these transnational criminal groups from accessing those systems at scale so legitimate people who need the benefits can get them in a timely fashion.
So we're going to get actual benefits to people, to American citizens that are in need faster, because if you do it electronically through web-based, like they did in Missouri, where the pilot program saved almost 20% of Medicaid dollars. So all we have to do is adopt what has already been proven in Missouri, and we'll save 20%. To the people out there listening, we spend almost $900 billion every year on Medicaid. And if 20% of that is saved, that's almost $200 billion. We got a $1.8 trillion annual deficit. We just knocked off $200 billion. Let's keep this train going. The fact that the Democrats are filing lawsuit after lawsuit to impede the efforts of President Trump to right our fiscal ship is unforgivable. It's unforgivable.
And Congressman Timmons wasn't finished there. He then challenged his colleagues in the House, both Democrats and Republicans, to accept his challenge to find additional ways to save the federal government money.
So I already have that bill filed. That bill, I think, would probably get $100 billion. So now we got enhanced identity verification, enhanced income verification that has been proven in Missouri. It does work. So I'm working on that bill. We're going to drop it soon. That's $200 billion. There's a competition in Congress. I think we should have a competition on this committee. I got $300 billion in savings proposed. We got to all pull our weight because we have such a massive problem right now. But I would just ask my colleagues across the aisle to get out of the way if you don't want to help. If you don't want to help right the fiscal ship in this country, get out of the way. Stop filing lawsuit after lawsuit. We do not have the financial ability to continue down this path, and we're going to save this country with or without you. You can kick and scream all the way, or you can get out of the way. I prefer the former. Thank you, Madam Chair.
But this is just a prime example of abuse, of waste happening, and you got bureaucrats out there who are trying to protect it, who think it's okay. I guess because it's job security for them. I don't know. Again, I don't know why any tax-paying, hardworking American would want to protect this type of abuse. But we're learning of other things, too. We're learning of how the Biden-Harris administration freely wasted our tax dollars. For example, when the Biden administration launched its strategy to tackle the so-called root causes of illegals coming across our southern border, remember this? Remember when Kamala Harris was first announced as the border czar, although she never liked the term border czar or the title border czar? She was going to find the root causes. She was going to go down to South America. During the Biden-Harris administration, Vice President Harris was tasked, of course, with leading diplomacy in Latin America. She talked about those root causes a lot until it became evident during her campaign that it wasn't working. Then she tried to shift to closing the border, which was way too late. Well, we've learned some of the wasteful spending that they used USAID to do. In 2021, the first year of the Biden administration, USAID announced Central America Local, which was a 5-year, $300 million initiative that funded organizations in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to address the root causes of migration to the U.S. $300 million. Imagine what that money would have done by employing more agents at the border, by improving our processes at the border. We wouldn't have to worry about the root causes. We would keep them from coming into our border, spending that $300 million on some portions of the wall. In 2022, USAID announced programs in Central America to end gender-based violence, including a $6.5 million program in Guatemala and a $2.7 million program in Honduras that built off of a program announced in El Salvador. Millions and millions of dollars being sent to these countries to get to the root causes. In March of last year, Vice President Harris met with Guatemalan President Arevalo and announced a planned investment of $135 million in USAID, alongside $170 million to aid development, economic health, and security assistance. So we're spending billions of dollars, because $100 million there and $200 million here adds up to billions of dollars, to try to, I guess, buy these people off so that they will try to keep their people in their country. but yet it wasn't working. It did not work. And these are just a few of the programs that have been uncovered that the Biden-Harris administration used the USAID program to try to get to the root causes. In September, USAID announced an additional $10.75 million in funding for Guatemala after USAID invested $153 million in Guatemala in 2023 to allegedly support the government in efforts to strengthen democracy and improve opportunities. We're just trying to buy these people. We're trying to buy these countries. Now, how much of those millions of dollars do you think actually went to their purpose? You think these South American heads of states didn't put some of that money in their pocket? You know, they're not actually known for their honesty in some of these South American countries, you know. Harris was, of course, dogged by the border czar title throughout her unsuccessful presidential bid, as she largely dropped the root causes emphasis and instead decided that, well, maybe there is something to this securing our border, but only after wasting billions of dollars trying to get to the root causes. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. I know we've talked about this a number of times, and we'll probably keep talking about it for the next few years, about how disconnected, how out of tune the Democrat Party is. And they didn't learn a thing. They don't seem to recognize the message that the people of America sent to them on Election Day last fall. And at a time when we're trying to cut the federal budget, when Elon Musk, through his Doge committee, and President Trump, through all the various executive orders that he has signed in these 3 short weeks, they don't seem to get the message that our government is going to change. It's not going to look the same way that it did prior to January the 20th. There's some big changes already taking place. There are more changes to come. The Democrats, though, are really just showing how out of tune they are. House Democrats this week reintroduced legislation that aims to find ways to deliver reparations to black Americans who are descendants of slaves. Where's my buddy JR from Westminster when I need him? Representative Ariana Presley, speaking of Massachusetts, she's one of those progressive Democrats from Massachusetts, is co-leading the reintroduction of H.R. 40. Or, to put it simply, this is the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey is said to be authoring a companion version in the U.S. Senate. Ms. Presley, again, a progressive member of the squad, said during a news conference that reparations are a necessary step in achieving justice. We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent, she said. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. Now, what does she mean that we're in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids? Does she really believe that people care that her skin is black? And that she's a member of the United States Congress. If she believes that things are so bad for black people that they don't have the opportunities, how does she reconcile the fact that she's in one of the most powerful bodies, a club, if you will, of very influential people? How'd she get there? Now, the bill aims to create a federal commission that will have the goal of investigating the enduring impacts of slavery and its aftermath. We've been down this road before. We've talked about this. They also will develop concrete proposals for reparations to African Americans who are descendants of slaves. Ms. Presley said reparations can take different forms that broadly refer to payments or other forms of compensation to the descendants of black individuals affected by slavery or past racist policies. Now, anytime this comes up, my big question is always, well, how do you determine what value you put on that? Who determines how much money a black descendant of a slave gets? And where's the money coming from? Now, Democrat politicians in blue states, including California, in recent years have floated the idea of reparations. They believe it's a way to atone for what proponents describe as a legacy of racist policies that have created disparities for black people in housing, for black people in education, and for black people and their health. Democrats on the Hill and in California have pushed for passage of reparations legislation for a number of years now. It keeps coming up. Some cities around the country, some states, have proposed ideas for reparations. Last August, for example, a pair of reparations-related bills for the descendants of enslaved black Americans failed to pass none other than the California legislature. You would have thought that if reparations was such a great idea that California would probably lead the effort, right? But no. It failed to pass the California legislature after supporters of the bill would not move forward because they thought that the bill, if passed, was at risk of being vetoed by Governor Gavin Newsom. So they didn't want to pass it yet. They wanted to make sure that Gavin Newsom will sign it before they pass it. Not that there's any indication they have the votes to do it anyway. Booker's office released a statement. Senator Booker released a statement last month on the Hill's reintroduction, which 17 Democrat senators are co-sponsoring. Senator Booker said, "We as a nation have not yet truly acknowledged and grappled with the way slavery, racism, and white supremacy continue to disadvantage African Americans. Commissioning a study to better understand where our country has fallen short will help lawmakers better address the racial disparities and inequalities that persist today as a result of generational injustices." This is an issue that I have the hardest time wrapping my brain around, that how someone, a slave, and that was a very dark time in our history. I admit that. It's embarrassing to think that we were ever there. But there's been a lot of dark times in our history. And hopefully we learn from each time and we're better. And I believe that we are. But there's no amount of money that you're going to give to a black person that's going to change that history. I don't care how much money you put into a black person's bank account, it will not change the fact that he or she may have had a relative 2 or 3 or 4 generations ago who was a slave. And it wasn't of anyone's fault today. And how do we treat those blacks who were owned by another black? Because there were black slave owners. It wasn't just rich white people. Wow. I can't reconcile what they want to do with this and how they think that throwing millions, well, actually it'd be billions of dollars, and how that's going to change anything. I guarantee you could write a check for $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, $100 million, and it's still not going to change some people's lives, and it's not going to make them believe that they have equal opportunities any longer because their skin is black. Unfortunately, some have a chip on their shoulder. They're always going to be a victim, just like some poor white people are. let's change the subject. This is an interesting story out of upstate New York. A New York food bank was offered a huge donation of fresh fish this month. And that's a good thing. Food banks are always needing good quality protein, right? But it came with a catch, pun intended. Local Coho, a soon-to-close salmon farm in the small upstate city of Auburn, New York, wanted to give 40,000 pounds of salmon to the Food Bank of Central New York. This is a huge load of high-quality protein that could feed thousands of families. But the fish were still swimming in the farm's giant tanks. The organizations would need to figure out how to get some 13,000 salmon from the water, process them into frozen fillets for distribution to regional food pantries. And they need to do it fast because the business is closed and they need these out by Friday. Local Coho can process about 600 fish a week by hand, but there's also less than a month to clear it all out. So they had to get started. What did they do? They enlisted many volunteers. A local business and with refrigerated trucks offered to ship the fish for free to a processor in Rochester, New York. And to make a great story better, they've been able to do it. The quick frozen salmon will be distributed to 243 food pantries as well as soup kitchens, feeding over 26,000 people. And that's the kind of story I like to hear. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next. Followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James, Mark Levin. I'm back again tomorrow for 5 a.m. for more of Sunrise Carolina and that first cup of coffee. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.